is it anywhere?
Well, good evening and hello there. Tamara here, and welcome to the Loft. Tonight we have an extra special guest, my absolutely amazing, multifaceted. Yes, as you notice, I use that word a lot because a lot of people that are in my life and influential are that very thing, multifaceted. Cousin Jeff, Nathaniel Jeffrey Owens from Philadelphia, PA. I want to turn it over to him and introduce for him to introduce himself. However, before we get started, what we're going to be talking about is Carpe Diem, seizing the day, seizing the day, seizing the opportunities, and being allowed to have that chance to create them again, create the second chances again. So, Jeff, introduce yourself. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Hey, cuz.
Hello there.
Um, well, you already said my name, Nathaniel Jeffrey Owens. That's me. So everybody calls me Jeff because there's a bunch of us, dad, granddad, So I'm Jeff.
Yes.
Philadelphia, PA. What about me? I'm a train conductor from uh
Right.
from 12 a.m. to 12 a.m. every day.
Oh,
Seems like I'm always at work. So I work a
yes.
lot. Um, I'm into a lot of arts and craft. That's my happy place. So whenever I'm not at work, I'm usually making something, creating something, designing something. Um, I laugh and joke with people that say most boys have idols that are football players or basketball players, and my idol is Martha Stewart. Um,
I love it.
no joke. I got a picture of her in my kitchen. I love Martha Stewart. Um, I love just being creative. I love all the creative people around me. I like to surround myself with creative people, people that are interested in putting on productions like you're doing,
Yes.
podcast. So that's awesome. So I'm gonna be picking your brain about how to do this later. Um,
Yes, sir. You got it.
and above all, um, I'm a person that's rooted in faith. Uh, I
Amen.
struggle a lot, like most people do, with trying to spread generosity and kindness because that other side can flip on real quick where I don't want to be bothered with
Yes.
you half the time. But you know, um, I like to say that I'm constantly growing and continuing to grow in faith and continuously evolving and trying to just become a better person continuously because I have a tendency to fall back, especially when I'm tired. I get irritable. Um, but aside
Mhm.
from all of that, I'm just a normal person walking down the street like everybody else. So you said I'm multifaceted and talented and all this
Yes.
other stuff. I don't see it like that. I just see it as I just like to do what I do.
See, that's your humility. That's what that is. Let me tell you. Because he is, no, don't even play the game, Jeff. You know what you do, but it's awesome that you have that humility, and that's why you're blessed and will be blessed. He puts together, I can't, I'm telling you, it's innumerable. I can't even name all of the events that he has put together and all of the things that he's done, the things that he's created. He is just truly blessed in his craft. Just like you said, he is creative. He's the epitome of creativity. I love seeing the things that he does and comes up with, and it's always something great going on. And we were having, and I mean, to start talking about what we were going to talk about, seizing the day, seizing the opportunity in life. It's like we were talking about opportunities, things that we were supposed to do and talking ourselves out of them all the time. I'm good for it. Just like this podcast, I'm not even going to say how delayed this is. It's like because I know if I know it that I'm doing it afraid, but we got to do those things that we're purposed to do. And um and then as we continue to press and move along, all of those other things seem to be added to it. But share like a story or two and we can go back and forth because you know I got 50 million stories to share about how I shoulda, woulda, coulda, but didn't, or did it too late. And but just like it said, God is a God of second chances. Thank God. You know, when I say that, all I can think of Veggie Tales. All I can think of is Veggie Tales.
All right. Well, I'm gonna share uh, 2 stories with you.
All right, cool,
Okay, I'm gonna try
cool.
to make them quick. All right, the
Yeah,
first one
good.
happened this past week, right? So I
Uh-huh.
shared with you earlier that a mentor friend of mine passed away this week,
Yeah.
and he was a person who was just like me. In fact, a lot of the stuff I learned from him. I learned how to do things and perfect certain things from him. And one thing he was a trained chef, right? And
Okay.
I like to cook, right?
Yes,
I
you
have
do, and you do it
I,
well.
I have a book of recipes, right? And so
Mm-hmm.
he made this cake for me one time, and every time I'd see him, I'm like, "You bringing the cake, right? You bringing the cake?" And it wasn't necessarily the cake that I loved; it was the icing, because I'm an icing person, right? I love cake icing.
Mm-hmm.
So, um, about 2 weeks ago, I said to myself, I haven't had one of Kenny. Kenny is his name. I haven't had one of Kenny's cakes in a while. Um, but I'm gonna ask him for that recipe. I'm gonna ask him for that recipe for that cake. I seen him make it, but I don't remember everything that was in it. And then sadly, last week I got the call that he
Mm-hmm.
had passed away, right? And so I can laugh when I tell this story because Kenny was a jokester, right? He was even like at his own funeral, like he used to say the things that he wanted to happen at his funeral. I'm like, Kenny, we can't do that. But I walked up to his casket today, paid my respect, and I looked at him and I said, I meant to call you last week for that cake recipe. So, and that's the type of stuff he would do, right? I
Uh-huh.
meant to call you for that. Wake up. But it's just one of those things in life. And I'm dang it, I should have called him because, who knows that me calling him probably would have been like a opportunity for me to have a fresh memory to of him.
Right.
But I didn't do it, and I wish I had now because
Mm-hmm.
that cake recipe is with the Lord. Um, but my second thing that I'm going to share with you is um, about what I've always wanted to be when I grew up, right? And I
Mm-hmm.
like music. I like to play music, sing, uh, cook, create things, right? Never
Mm-hmm.
wanted to be a painter or a chef or I like music, so I wanted to be a musician, but not
Mm-hmm.
seriously. But I remember when I was maybe in middle school or high school. You remember the straw bridges that was at 10th and I think it was 9th and Market, right?
Right there. Yes, I love that
Yeah.
one.
I used to cut through there at least 2 or 3 times a week, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I would walk by this marquee, a Calvin Klein model, right?
Okay. Mm-hmm.
And this Calvin Klein model, it was always some, strong man with long legs and, big bulky chest modeling Calvin Klein clothes. And I used to say, I want to be that model when I grow up, right?
Mm-hmm.
And,
Mm-hmm.
I was supposed to lose 10 pounds 10 years ago, but I ended up gaining 20. But
I
But
hear you.
nonetheless, talking about carpe diem and seizing the moment, seizing the day.
Yes.
Um, I said, you know what? I was supposed to lose that 10 pounds 10 years ago, and now I got 20 pounds to lose. And I
Right.
really want to, get in shape. And I may not be that model, but I want to, do something that will help keep me healthy, help get me in shape. And I started
Right.
researching some things to do because I'm not going to the gym and doing 20 push-ups. It's just not me. But I
Mm-hmm.
actually this week signed up for boxing and tennis lessons, you
Okay.
know? So I'm like, okay, this is like one step for uh accomplishing something that I've wanted to do for so long. I wanted to do something that would help keep me active and shape. And, you know, maybe one day I might get that bulky chest, but, you know, it's one
Right.
step to recreating something that I just kind of put on the back burner. So those are
Mhm.
my two stories about just something that I wanted to have a second chance at.
Yep. And I know, and I have multiple, because like I was sharing with you, um, when I had, and I've shared this recently, and I've shared it so many times because it's part of my testimony. Like when I um graduated high school, I was going to go to Montclair State College in New Jersey, broadcast communications, but I decided to get married and have children. And it's just like, and I'm thankful. Of course, everybody in the world knows that I am. And it's just like, I'm thankful for the experience too, because I feel that it was a stepping stone to bring me to where I am right now. It's just like everything that happened, you know what I mean? But I look at God and I look at the opportunity that He has presented again for me to actually do that. I love putting the spotlight on people. I love elevating people. I love people to be heard that normally wouldn't be heard or normally doesn't have a voice to share their stories and inspirations and just things that I admire in people and just want the world to know, if that makes any sense. And it's just like,
Yeah.
and that's pretty much what they do. They broadcast, and I just broadcast in a different way. And I love doing that. I'm so passionate about it, and it's real. It's so real to me. And that's why I'm so thankful for this platform to be able to do it, because I feel that this is the time. The time is now. It's time for me to, take advantage of this second chance to look at this as an opportunity. And it was placed in my face so many different times. I mean, as y'all, my story. And it's just like I kept on procrastinating, procrastinating, procrastinating until I got the revelation. It's just like, no, you need to seize the day, seize
There you
the
go.
moment. I love that, Jeff, that you said that. Carpe diem. You have this opportunity, you need to do it now. And it's just like, and it's exciting. It's an adventure. Yes, sirree, I am doing it afraid, and I will continue to say that as long as I can, because it is, it's new. You know what I mean? And that's like when you said that you would ask me that question. That's one of the things that I would say is just like, do it afraid. Just step out and do it on faith. And um the doors will open up. It's just like you'll start getting revelations to things will start, it's like the laws of attraction. You'll start drawing things to you. More opportunities will present themselves, more things will present themselves to you. It's just like, it's amazing what I've been seeing once I decided to take that first step, that first leap of faith. And I said, and I encourage you to do the same, but I don't even know why I'm encouraging you, because you always be encouraging everybody else. And you be doing it yourself with all of the, because I know you have done so many things. I mean, you were working with the kids. I remember you working with the kids because you had me on your show there. I love that. You were it's just like theater. You do theater, you sing, you bake, you put together parties. I'm like, the event planning, there is so much to you. It's fantastic. And it's just like, I'm not gonna be the one doing all the talking here, Jeff. So you better, I know you got things to say and stories to tell.
Yeah. Well,
Of
one thing
like,
you I was
mhm,
gonna say one thing that you said is, you know, you're doing this afraid. And
yeah,
I reflect back on my experiences, and fear is the thing that has really kept me from doing a lot of the things I wanted to do. And it could have been
right,
fear because, you know, I had to pay the bills, you know, and I didn't need to
right.
be dabbling in this when I knew I had to go to that 9 to 5 so I could just pay the gas bill, the light bill, you know, the
Mhm,
rent, the mortgage, whatever it is. But
mhm,
I got to a point where I started saying, you know, I could have done this. I could have sacrificed this little bit of time to, you know, work towards a project or a goal or a career or a business or whatever it is. And I had a friend
Mhm.
who told me one time, she said, don't be busy doing nothing, right?
I like that.
Don't be
Uh-huh.
busy doing nothing, you know. What you doing after work? Oh, I gotta get home. I got so much to do. And I get home and I just sit down and watch TV. You know, I'm
Mhm.
busy doing nothing, you know. So fill your time with things that are constructive
Mhm.
versus having the fear of not succeeding at something, because you got to fail
Right.
sometimes before you can
Right.
succeed.
Yes. Yes. I was just thinking that. That is so funny because you were in my head with that. You do. You have to fail at things. And multiple times. There's so many testimonies of people who have obtained and achieved greatness out there. Um, and they had to fail at it first. You know, you hear the stories of Disney, Walt Disney, and how they told him he wasn't creative enough. You hear the stories of Colonel Sanders and how he started at the age that he started. You hear the stories of Michael Jordan. It's so many stories out there about people who failed in the beginning, but then they just had that drive. They had that motivation. And I mean, you have to have that to keep on pressing, to keep on moving. And that's what I want to share. You know, I know both of us want to share with the audience is that, you just have to continue to press on, no matter what it looks like, especially if the Lord is giving you a vision, direction, and something that it is that you dream about or that's been in your heart to accomplish. It's like take those steps just one day at a time. That's all we can do. It's just one day at a time. And it's just
Right,
like to get to, the final destination, whatever that may look like for you, whatever that may look like for someone. Um, it's like don't give up. And a lot of people they'll get discouraged when they fail and just throw in the towel and just leave it be. And the dream dies, unfortunately. And it's just like, and then you see somebody else pick it up and move forward with it. You know what I
exactly.
mean?
One of the things that I've learned over the last few years is that if you fail at something, you have to
Mhm,
sometimes already know what the plan B
mhm.
is, you know.
Love it.
So
Mhm,
it could be something as simple as I'm driving down 95 to get home, but
mhm,
you know, it was national news back in June. 95
mhm,
collapsed due to a truck fire
mhm.
underneath. So,
Yes, that was crazy.
right. And I'm just using that as an example, but I remember looking at the traffic, right? The
Mhm,
traffic down 95 and the people trying to detour and people getting stuck in traffic for an hour and a half just to detour
mhm.
around that collapsed area of 95 with no
Right.
plan B, right? And
Yep.
so me, I'm watching on the news and I said, even though I work in Pennsylvania, right, or
Mhm.
my job, you know, starts in Pennsylvania, I cross that bridge right into Jersey, drive down 295 and cross over the Ben Franklin Bridge home in 25 minutes. you
Yeah.
know?
Yep.
So, you know, plan A didn't work. You know,
Right.
the route didn't work, but I decided to take a second route. And you know what? It was successful. And
I
then
love it.
when people started figuring it out, it took about 4 days for people to start figuring that out, right? And I saw
Mhm.
traffic being backed up. I said, oh, okay, well, my secret got out. All right, well, let me drive down 130, you know. And for all the
Right.
people that don't know what these highways are, this is a Philly and South
Oh,
Jersey
Philly.
thing.
Yes, indeedy.
you know, and you know, I do the
Yes.
same thing. And so you have to know, and I'm the type of person that I do not sit in traffic, right? I
Mm.
don't sit in traffic. I don't care
Mhm.
where I am. I will find an alternate route. And the same thing applies when you are trying to accomplish a goal, right?
Love it.
The first
Mhm.
path you take may not work, but the second path you take might work. But then there might even be a third and fourth route to take that might be even better, right? As long as you get to the destination that you're trying to go to, you might have a road closure, you might have a construction crew that sets you back a little bit. The
Mm-hmm.
same thing, and I'm just relating this to driving, but it's the same thing when you're
Mm-hmm.
trying to accomplish a goal. And I had to really, really think about that. I think I shared with you that I wrote a cookbook,
Yes. Mm-hmm.
right? And
Mm-hmm.
I have been holding off and holding off and holding off on publishing this book. And I've
Mm-hmm.
been second guessing myself. And then things happen along the way that
Mm-hmm.
really set me back, right? Um,
Right.
one of the reasons I created the cookbook was because one of my friends, I would go to his place or he would come to my place, right? He lived in DC, and we would, I would cook for him because he couldn't cook, right? And I'm like, you look malnourished. Let me make you something, right? And he was always impressed with how fast I could whip up a dish, a meal.
Mm-hmm.
And he said, you should uh, write a cookbook for me, right? And so I did. And then what happened? He passed away, right?
Oh
And so
God.
I had a rough copy of it. I gave it to him, right? And
Mm-hmm.
then his sister, after he passed, found it. And his
Mm.
mom and his sister owned a restaurant. And
Mm-hmm.
she said, I might have to try some of these recipes. And I said, wait a second, don't go stealing my recipes now. And she was like, your recipes? Yeah, I wrote that for him,
Uh-huh.
but every time I start to edit it, I start to think about him and I'm like, oh God, it's too hard. It's too hard.
Right.
But
Mm-hmm.
at the same time, I'm like, okay, he started this. He wants me to finish it. He wants me to
Mm-hmm.
finish it. And so I had to come to the realization that, you know, he he wouldn't want me to be depressed and upset. It's been
Mm-hmm.
almost a year since he's passed, and it's still hard. But now my thought process has gone from, you know what, this is. At first, it was in memory of you. Now it's a tribute to you. So the first
Right.
route, in memory of you, was too painful, right? But now that I
Right.
say a tribute to you, it's like, okay, now we got to celebrate. We got to celebrate my friend. And I don't care if
That's good.
nobody buys it. This is a
Mm-hmm.
celebration for my friend's life, So
Right.
route
Right.
route one didn't work, but route two seems to be working out just fine because I'm almost done with the editing.
See, that is phenomenal. That was an inspirational story. I mean, the analogy that you used, the what do you call it? It wasn't really a
Metaphor.
metaphor. It was, yeah. Whatever it was, let me tell you, it was good. I said, because I'm gonna use it. That was fantastic, Jeff. A reference to the root, because I always used to teach the boys, always have a plan A, plan B, plan C. And I said that because it's so important that you do have a backup plan in life. And the way that you just presented that was spot on. That was awesome. And I thank you for
Thank you.
sharing that.
No
Yes, that
problem.
was very nice. I really thank you for sharing that. And you know that book gonna sell. How about
I
that?
hope so.
It will.
I hope so. But if it don't, if it
You
don't,
still gonna be all right.
I just want to accomplish that goal, right? And this
Yes.
is something I've had for years. I write my recipes down when I make something or I create something new.
Right.
I got a seasoning, right? I call it chicken
Yep.
scratch, right? It's my seasoning that I season chicken with, right?
Okay.
And I got people asking me, "Hey, can you sell me some of that chicken scratch?" Right? you know, so I'm like, okay, well, you know, goal one is not even finished yet, and already somebody's like asking me, "Well, when's goal two coming out?" So like I said, Martha Stewart's my inspiration. So I'm gonna have
Uh-huh.
my cookbook like Martha, and I'm gonna have my seasoning selection like Martha. It's gonna be in stores on Walmart. You watch.
See, that's the way you talk it. That's the way you talk it. You speak that thing into existence. That's
Yeah,
fantastic.
Yeah,
Oh my gosh. That is so good. And I can't wait. And you know I'm still waiting for my cake too, right?
I know, it's coming, it's coming. Listen, Thanksgiving is coming up. I got orders up to
I
here,
know you
so
so.
listen, you're gonna be the first person I mail one to.
That's what I'm talking about.
But wait,
Even
let's talk about the cake. Let me tell you
yeah,
about the cake. So I had made these little, so I took the cake and made them into little cupcakes. They're beautiful, right?
uh-huh. Uh-huh.
Started taking them to work and letting everybody sample. Now I work with 1,300 people on a daily basis. Like I literally
Yeah.
pass about 1,300 of my coworkers on a daily basis at some point along the railroad. And so we all tend to meet up at these, central points. So I just drop them off, right? Hey, y'all, taste one of these, right? The cake,
Uh-huh.
the actual bunk cake, people don't even want that no more. They want the little cupcakes. They're like, oh, these are better because they're crispy on the
Uh-huh.
outside, soft and moist on the inside, taste like butter all the way through. So,
Uh-huh.
like I said, from one success comes
Yeah.
another. And that's just
Uh,
something else that helped me because I'm like, I like making the bunk cakes. They're easier. The little cupcakes
right.
take more time because I got to measure each one and stuff like that.
Right.
But it's like, people really love them. So now
Mm-hmm.
I have to try to think of how to make things twice as fast. And when I tell you, I was in the kitchen last week playing with the recipe and playing with the measurements and different tools, and I bought different utensils to see what works and what doesn't work, and seeing if
Uh-huh.
I could substitute this ingredient because this one is hard to find and stuff like that. And I had people taste testing it, you know,
Right.
and give me your honest opinion. I changed this. This is what I took out. Is it good?
Mm-hmm.
No, it's not as good. Okay, fine. We won't do anything. But
Yeah.
trial and error, because now I'm at the point where I'm like, okay, let me see what the failure looks like, you know.
Right.
Let me see what I listen, I know how to be successful at this particular product, right?
Mm-hmm.
But what happens when it doesn't turn out the way I want it to? All right. Well, is it
Okay.
terrible? Is people going to
Mm-hmm.
complain about it? They're going to take a bite and make that funny face.
I
It's not
know
the
we
same,
always over.
you know? Right. And when I saw somebody taste test it and they said, I said, okay, never mind. They didn't say it. They just made the face. And I said, okay, never
Yeah.
mind. Throw it away. Throw
Uh-huh.
it away. I don't want that face, because that's what the
Yes.
failure looks like. That's what the
Yep.
failure looks like.
You were like,
So
nope.
that scrumptious look on your face, So that's another thing, I
Yeah.
tried a different route, Plan the
Mm-hmm.
the first route worked. I tried to go a different route. It didn't work.
Mm-hmm.
So I won't be going that
Right.
way anymore.
I love it. And it's like that this is good. This is so good. It is just like because you can pick yourself back up again and take that other route. There are alternate routes that we can take to get to the final destination and which we're supposed to go. And I said, and we are allotted the opportunity to do that. When
Right,
we have, a game plan and you stay prayerful about things, and that is just so important. And just using that wisdom that we've been blessed with to take,
right.
to use those navigating through life, taking one step at a time
That's right.
and um making those plans. And just like because things Bobby used to always say to me, cards are subject to change. That was his saying all the time to me. He was just like, you always have to be prepared because things change. People change, situations change, it changes. So you just have to be prepared. And sometimes we're not prepared, but it's good to have those plans in place. So if you can't fall back into this area, you could fall back into this area. Can't do what you say, A, you got to do B. Can't do B, you could do
Yeah,
C, and you keep on moving until you accomplish what you need to accomplish. It's just like don't give up.
yeah. And you know
Don't
what?
give up.
that was my biggest problem in
Hmm.
life. That was my biggest challenge, is not having a backup, not having a plan B. What happens when those cards change, right?
Right.
What happens what happens when you work for a company and the company lets you go? You know,
Yes.
they
Mhm.
decide that, oh, we're paying you too much money. Oh, we got to downsize. Oh, we're moving. One of few situations that could happen. And now you
Yeah.
find yourself in the job market in a panic because you don't know where the next paycheck is coming from. You don't know how you're going to eat in the next 2 weeks or the next month or the next 3 months. You got to start using your
Right.
savings and all this stuff. And that was my biggest problem in life. And you know,
Hmm.
back in 2012, I'm gonna back it up even further. 2006, right? I
Okay.
was not prepared for the bombshell that hit me mentally.
Hmm.
So that's when I lost who you knew, and she knew you very well because she always talked about you as a little girl. But my grandma, my dad's mom, right? I remember
Yes. Mhm.
her passing was so
Mhm.
mentally draining on me, and I didn't know how to recover from that. I just kind of looked around and saw what everybody else was doing and tried to mimic that. And then,
Wow.
uh, you know, fast forward to, that was like my first big loss that I can remember, being somewhat
Yes.
of a young man and
Yeah.
experiencing that. Um, but then I remember back in 2012 when Joyce, Aunt Joyce,
Oh.
you know, um,
Hmm.
which was another bombshell. And then, you know,
Yes.
Arlene, that was
Yes.
another bombshell. And it's just like bombshell after bombshell. And it's like
Yep.
a pattern that continued on even till today, and then
Hmm.
as soon as it seemed like it slows down, it picks back up again. And then the job changes and then relocating from one place to another place. And then you have
Hmm.
relationships that come and relationships that fail and go. And all of that stuff just weighs down and you don't have a backup plan. You just let that stuff mentally drain you. But what I've try to realize is that is if you have a backup plan, if you have a goal that you set
Hmm.
and you accomplish it, those things that happen, you realize are a part of life. And even though you may be sad about it, and you will
Hmm.
probably always be sad for those, especially for the death situations, um,
Hmm.
you find ways to move on because you have
Hmm.
something to accomplish, right? And even
Yes.
like with you, which we've been talking about you behind your back because we'd be like, look at that girl go. Like, man, look at her go. And it's so amazing that you are just continuing on what
Hmm.
you and Bobby were working on together and,
Yes.
creating a legacy for him. Because
Hmm.
I remember Joyce was like my little partner in crime. Like Joyce got me
Yes.
into so much trouble, right? And I think it was payback for what my mom did for Kamari and Kiafa, right? I think it was payback. So Joyce used to have me out in different cities, and we go to a bar, and Joyce to slide the drink down to me. I'm underage, right? And so I remember I used to tell Joyce like little secrets, stuff that I wouldn't tell anybody else, right? And so
Uh,
when Joyce passed, it was like, you know,
Devastating.
wow, what a bombshell. And then when Arlene passed, it was like me and Arlene used to crack jokes after jokes with each other. We used to laugh
Devastating.
with each other. And it was like, some of those little jokes, I'm gonna miss that. I'm never gonna see that
Yes.
again. But then you find a place in your heart eventually to like, okay, I remember that, and it's funny now. Where I'm not gonna
Mhm.
cry about it anymore. But I will say that those things, I didn't know how to deal with those things. I didn't know how to manage, um, loss. I just kind of looked around at everybody else, and
Right.
I remember um, when I'm gonna say his name, but his name is John, but we called him Poop, right? And I
Yes.
remember when he passed away, um, that was like one of the times in life where I kind of was prepared for
Mm-hmm.
something, because I remember I came home from work and I went to my mom's, and she said they just took him out in the ambulance. He's over at
Mm-hmm.
St. Joe's Hospital. So we went over to the hospital, and
Mm-hmm.
the doctor told my mom he's the sickest person in the ER. The doctor said he might die. And I
Mm.
remember the look on her face. She was like taken back by it. She kind of froze. And then that's when I was like, okay, time to move. Time to move. Even though in my head, I'm like, wait, what? I just saw him
What's
yesterday. He
going
looked
on?
fine, right?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
But in my head, it was like, wait, what? Well, no, no, let's do this. Sent her home. I went back to the hospital and I stayed at the hospital. And I'm sitting there in the waiting room because I'm trying to figure out everything, because I'm like, I know I'm gonna have to make this phone call, but this is what I'm gonna
Mm-hmm.
do. And I'm thinking to myself, please don't die, please don't die. But at the same time, I'm like, okay, first thing I need to do is call Baker. You know,
Yep.
I call
Yep.
Baker.
Yep.
We get an outfit, call a church,
Mm-hmm.
and it was like I wasn't prepared for this, but in my mind, I had already seen the process, so I knew what the
Mm-hmm.
plan was, you know,
Mm-hmm.
and like I remember every little detail about that scenario in life, and that was when I realized, that was one of the moments in life where I realized, man, I already know that when something doesn't go the way you want it to go, you have
Right.
to be prepared for that plan B, right? And that was a
Yes.
bombshell. That was a bombshell
Yes.
because we used to sit in the backyard. He used to drink his beer, and
Mm-hmm.
I remember I would ask him, "Don't you want to move out of North Philly?" And he would say, "I was born in North Philly. I lived for 50 years in North Philly. I'm gonna live 150 more years in North Philly, and I'm gonna die in North Philly." Right? Uh,
Yeah.
that his words exactly. And I'm like, okay, well, that plan didn't work, but you know what? We had a plan B and didn't even know it. We knew what we had to do
Right.
once he passed. And I remember being in the hospital and they yelled "Code Blue," right? And
Mm.
my dad's mom was a nurse. So
Mm-hmm.
she told me all about Code Blue, what Code Blue meant, and told me how she used to have to give people CPR and stuff. And so
Mm-hmm.
I said, "Code Blue." And I jumped up real quick and I ran over to his room, saw that they were giving him chest compressions. And I'm like, ah,
I know.
now I got to make these phone calls. In my head, I had already planned on what I was doing, right? I had already
Yep.
planned on who I needed to call. I had called it. I had the text message for the pastor. I said, I
Yes.
need,
Yep.
I need, you know, um, wrote out the obituary and everything. I mean, I had
Mm-hmm.
planned all of that, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Alone, because I'm like, okay, listen, I don't want to put this on my mom. I don't want to put this on Kim. I won't put it on
Right.
anybody, you know.
Right.
Let's do it. And that was one of the things that kind of gave me a little bit of strength too, because
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
me and Poop was like this,
Mm-hmm.
we was like this. That was my buddy. He used to
Uh-huh.
come pick me up and take me to the mall shopping with him. He'd come crack his beer open in the car and roll. That was my buddy. And so it was like, okay, you're gonna have to grieve later, but now we got work to do, you know.
Right.
And I kind of live my life that way. And when I find myself being in those moments that's completely stressful, to the point where
Mm-hmm.
my hairs start turning gray, because if you look closely, it's a lot of
Yep.
them down here. Um, I sometimes realize, okay, listen, be grateful for what you do have, be grateful for the time
Yes.
that you do have, get
Yes.
moving, and then you can be sad later. You can grieve later, and
Mm-hmm.
um, grieving is also not just for the loss of a person, but it's for sometimes for the loss of material things or
Yep.
sentimental things.
Mm-hmm.
You know, um, I remember I worked a job when I was
Mm-hmm.
younger, and I loved this job. And they did a reduction in force, and they said bye bye. I was
Yeah,
like,
see.
and that was depressing because I loved my job, right? I loved
Right.
what I did. I got to talk to people every day, and stuff like that. But I didn't have a plan B. I didn't have a backup.
Yeah.
I didn't know what I was going to do. So I went online and started applying for jobs, you know, and
Mm-hmm.
now I'm at the point because I've seen it happen to so many people, especially during
Mm-hmm.
the pandemic and things like that. See
Yes.
people losing their jobs left and right. And
Right.
now I'm at the point where I'm like, you know what? I need a backup. I need a
Mm-hmm.
backup gig and I need something for myself, and not just and I do plenty of things on the side. I got plenty of side hustles, the cakes
Right.
and
Yes.
being a travel agent and just stuff like
Mm-hmm.
that. But I'm like, I need something that I can call my own,
Right.
something that Jeff built, that Jeff
Mm-hmm.
operates, that Jeff manages, and that will bring Jeff income for those moments when
Mm-hmm.
the corporations want to say bye bye, and hopefully that doesn't happen,
Yep.
but you never know. So you always have to be prepared to do something for yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
That is the truth. And just like
right.
you said, with grief, it comes in so many different ways. It isn't even necessarily the loss of a person. It could be the loss of a job. It could be the loss of a relationship. It could be the loss of something that you held near and dear, like, an opportunity or something. And then when you lose it, it's just like, oh my gosh, what am I going to do? And everybody grieves differently and they handle it differently. And it's just like, some people don't have those different plans, or those different backup plans. And so that's why I think it is so important to just be, in the best of your capability to be prepared because we don't know
Yeah,
what's going to happen. And it's just like, because a lot of things are, it's out of our control. But it's just like you have to think, okay, you have to do the best that you could do once something hits you like that. Because just like we lost pillars in our lives. And when we lost those pillars, it's just like, oh my gosh, what do you do? And it's just like in the way that you handled it was great. And then the way that I handled it is just like I know, just like you said, I had to continue to move because I knew that that's what they would have wanted.
right.
You know what I mean? To keep
Yeah,
on moving, to keep on moving, to keep on like, don't stop. And it's just like because life goes on, you have to continue to stop that, and just like I said, people grieve in so many different ways. And I respect the way, and because everybody has that, nobody is the same. You know what I mean? But it's just like you and I personally, we just had that motivation to keep on moving.
yeah,
Keep on moving. Like, what's the next
yeah.
step? How can we help? How can we, step in and do this, that, or the other? So thank you for being transparent about that too.
No problem. Well, I gotta be honest about something too. Very, very honest, because you said grief can sometimes come with the loss of a relationship, right?
Yes.
And you said in the beginning of our chat, you talked about my humility and how humble I am. But when it comes to those
Mhm.
relationships, let them go. Let them go. Let them go. See ya. And look, I know I need to work on that so I don't grow old alone. But I I had this woman that I knew, and I used to admire her so much. Oh, I guess she's probably in her 70s now, but when I
Uh-huh.
would see her on a frequent basis, she was in her 50s, and she had
Uh-huh.
married this man who was a senior vice president of an airline. And
Oh
she
wow.
would call so she called me Nate, right? And
Uh-huh.
she said, Nate, my baby, she said, go on one or two dates and leave him alone. She said, don't, she used to say, don't get caught up. And she used to say, and no babies. She said, I waited until I was 35. I lived my life. You live your life. And I look back at it and I'm like, out of all the people that have given me relationship advice, you know, I
That's
follow hers.
hilarious.
And you know, when it comes to second chances, you don't get no second chance with me. If I give you one, that's all you get.
He said,
So
let it go.
sorry. So ain't
Just
no, you
let it go.
can't create no second chance with this one. Nope. And I'm so crazy because I'm like I probably should have been married by now, but I'm so stubborn and I gotta lose this mindset, but it is what it is.
It is what it is until it isn't.
Right, right. I'll get lonely one day, but not today.
Just let it go. Just
Right.
let it go.
Yeah.
Oh my, as always, Jeff, it's a pleasure talking to you. You know, you always make me laugh. And I'm like always complimenting you on all your endeavors and everything you do. And I'm like, what are you doing now? If you're not in another state, country, somewhere traveling, doing something, you're creating something. I'm like, "Oh, I can't keep up with you." But that's a good thing.
Yep.
I said that's a good
It's
thing. That
fun.
means you're keeping it. Yes, you're keeping it moving. You're innovative. You're keeping it moving. You're living life. You're
I'm
experiencing it
trying.
through ups and downs, everything. Yes, you
Yeah.
are. You're doing a great job, and I'm proud of you.
I'm proud of you too.
Oh, well, thank you. But before I close on tonight, I wanted to know if you had anything inspirational that you wanted to share with our guests.
Yes. So
Okay.
just to kind of sum up everything that we talked about
Mm-hmm.
second chances. You know, had I not had fear,
Mm-hmm.
I would have accomplished so much more than what I've already accomplished. And even though I do so much now and I'm traveling here or I put on this production or I, have my little side hustles going on with, cookbooks and cakes and, chicken and waffles is my specialty. I could have done this
Mm-hmm.
stuff years ago when I first had the initial thought if I didn't have the fear. So
Wow.
we have to learn to face our fears. Let's put it like that.
Yes.
We have to learn to
Mm-hmm.
face our fears because um, Uncle Sam, the gas bill, the electric bill,
Mm-hmm.
the mortgage, the rent, the car note, those things will put fear in us, right? They they
Yes.
put
Mm-hmm.
they put listen, if you ever want to experience the fear of God, have the bill collectors knocking on your door saying, your light bill's past due. Um, but put that fear aside. Put that fear aside. Don't do something that, or don't not do something that you really want to do because you're afraid that you can't do it, or you're afraid that you can't do it at this time. If there's something that you
Mm-hmm.
really can't do, but you want to do, make it a goal. Okay. And then make that goal a priority. All right. So if your dream is to travel to Paris, right, but you don't have the
Mm-hmm.
money today, well, you know what? In 6 months, you might have that money. So book the
Mm-hmm.
trip, make a payment on the trip, and go.
Mm-hmm.
Right? All right. Don't go to
Mm-hmm.
Paris now. They got bed bugs. But if that's your goal, if that's your goal, do it. If you have any type of entrepreneurial skill or brain, put
Yeah.
it to use. Don't let someone else's creation of a similar product tell you that you can't do it. So if you
Correct.
can create something, if you can open up your own tax firm, or you can open up your own daycare center, or if you can, there's so much funding out here for us.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason that we don't go after it is because it's not it's not promoted to us. And when I say us, I
Mm-hmm.
mean people who are hardworking citizens
Mm-hmm.
of the United States of
Mm-hmm.
America, right? But
Mm-hmm.
when you come as a new citizen to this country, they tell you everything that's available to you, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's available to us too, but we have to
Mm-hmm.
do our research and go get it.
Yes.
So I just
Yes.
encourage everybody, start the business, right? Go to college. And that was another thing we talked about is college. Go to college for what you want to go to college for, not for what you
Right.
think you need to go to college for. They don't need any more people in the business management course, right? They need
Mm-hmm.
people in broadcasting and journalism. They need
Yes.
contractors and engineers and mathematicians. If you feel like you have just a little bit of skill that you want to develop, go develop it. All right. Be like the Army say, be all that you can be, right? All that
Mm-hmm.
you want to be and go as
Mm-hmm.
far as you want to go. There's no one stopping you but you. And I know that I have been stopping me for a long time, but I'm at the point now where I'm setting goals and I'm working towards those goals. And I encourage everyone to do the same thing.
Amen. Amen. Thank you, thank you, thank you again for that. What a blessing. That was
Thank you.
awesome. Yes. And we are going to conclude our show on tonight. And remember to hold on to your dream and with unwavering faith, live it. Carpe
Amen.
diem.
Carpe diem. Seize the day.
Bye bye for now.
Bye bye.